Relationships as we used to know are changing forever. Now, why is this the case? You see, if you look into the past when humanity was in a survival mode, if you look back into the cave times, those days relationships were totally role-based. In the sense, there were strict, definite gender roles, like the man would go and provide for the family and the woman would stay at home and nurture the kids. There was not so much element of love, connection, bonding, intimacy, because in those days, survival was the main focus. Survival of the family, survival of the human species, and this was the only way people knew how to do it, because the men were stronger, so they could go and provide for the family, whereas the woman biologically and physically, she is weaker, so she stays at home and nurtures the family, brings up the family. But now those roles are changing, because what is happening is we are evolving. Our consciousness is opening up. This is the time when humanity is waking up to itself, because in those gender-based roles in relationships, there was not much room for negotiation, for getting your needs met, for true connection and intimacy. But now, if you look at today's lifestyle, we don't have that need to survive anymore. Like, of course, we still have people, children dying of starvation and poverty and stuff like that. But I'm not talking of those extreme situations. I'm talking about, regular lifestyle where people are doing well in their careers, women are being educated, the masculine feminine structure in societies are changing. But I'm not saying that men and women are equal. Men and women will never be equal. But what I'm talking about is equal opportunity, equal pay, equal profit in the kind of labor that we put forth in the working industry. We all come into this world with a knowledge, an inner knowledge, and with an impulse to self-actualize. If you look at life like from a soul perspective, the soul has no gender. The soul incarnates into this physical plane as a man or a woman to actualize itself in that identity, in that character. So women are waking up, men are waking up, and those need-based relationships are not functional anymore, because we don't need the other person to provide anymore. Women are working, women are earning, men are also working and earning, so both are earning here, and the demand for relationships have increased. And if we look at it, both the genders are confused. Women don't know how to show up to a man, and men don't know how to show up to women, because we don't know anymore how to connect with people. But at the same time, something very interesting is also happening, which is like a heart center awakening, where people from different cultures and background and traditions are meeting and falling in love. And then, because of our individual belief systems and expectations of how a relation should be, people are not able to maintain that connection because the belief systems are different. People are traveling, people are meeting, others from different cultures, and then when they fall in love, they don't know how to make it work, because this person has certain set of belief systems, and the other person has another set of belief systems, and a lot of it is not expressed. And what happens once you are in a relationship, you start having these unconscious expectations from the other person, that if this person is doing this, that means he loves me. If this person is doing that, that means he doesn't love me, you know, things like that. And because of no communication, those connections are falling apart. And with modern technology, with the internet, with the cell phone generation, where you can just communicate with an emoticon, you know, it's getting even worse, because people are not able to express their real feelings, their real sentiments. And also today there is so much choice, so many options, that they are not willing to stay together and communicate and navigate that relationship and make it work. They always think, oh, you know, if it doesn't work, screw it, I'll find another one. And so what is happening is that things are falling apart, relationships are breaking. But this is not something to be scared of, because this is a natural process in the evolution of our consciousness. You see, when there is one extreme, humanity, because we live in a world of duality, we have an experience of polarity, because we know what is light, we know what is dark, because we know what is good, we know what is bad, because we experience sadness, we can appreciate happiness. So this is the duality, and we are here to have an experience of all these things. So when the contrast is actually creating the contextual field for us to experience its opposite extreme. Now, when you have two poles, you know, they are on two extremes, it's kind of hard to make a union happen, because, you know, you are on opposite ends of the spectrum. So if you think about it, in the past, most relationships were codependent relationships. Now, what do I mean by codependence? It is a totally need-based relationship. You need this, I give you this. I need that, you give me this. So let us have this transaction. And in those kind of need-based relationships, people were not really evolving into their highest potential. And sometimes those relationships have a high chance of becoming abusive, you know, where one person continues to be there nurturing the other person in the relationship, where the other person takes this person for granted, because this person can never leave the connection. So those codependent relationships had a lot of room for abuse and violence, especially by the person who had more power in the connection. And of course, that didn't create balance in the connection, and those connections would either fall apart, which is happening a lot nowadays, or they would become extremely toxic for both parties in that connection. Now, from that codependence, people are waking up like, I will not accept abuse, or I will not accept bad quality, poor quality connection. I want more, I want better. So this is the collective thought in humanity. This is the collective mindset that is going on among people, and people are like, you know, I'd rather be alone than be in a bad connection. So this is why a lot of modern relationships are falling apart. Now, what is happening is that from one polarity, humanity has switched to the other polarity, where we have this extreme independence, where it's like, I don't need you, I don't care about you. If you are not there for me, get lost. You know, that kind of mindset. There is always another person, there is always someone better on the other side. So on this extreme independence, what is happening is also a huge form of escapism, where we are not willing to stay and deal with the problems that arise in the connection. So a lot of the times people break apart, not because they don't love themselves anymore. A lot of the times they do love each other, they do want to stay with each other, but they are not able to stay in that connection because they don't know how to communicate effectively their deeper desires and needs and emotions. At the same time, it's also good to have a sense of autonomy and independence where you can rely on yourself. But when we create this world of independence where, you say you can only rely on yourself and nobody else, then you don't have a relationship. You don't have a connection with anybody else because you learn how to be there for yourself. You stay alone and you try to navigate life from that space of extreme independence. And this is why a lot of people nowadays are staying single and not having relationships at all, or having a lot of broken relationships, and at the end of it, they are still single. But this is part of the evolutionary process. If you can understand how this evolution is working, from the codependence, people have gone to extreme independence. And at this level of independence, what is happening is that we are being present with ourselves. We are learning to meet our own needs. So we don't have to rely on someone outside of us to meet our needs. So we don't come across as nagging. We don't come across as dependent on the other person. We don't come across as needy, those kind of toxic dynamics that the codependent relationships used to have. In the future of the evolution of our consciousness, what would happen is that people on this extreme would realize that this is also not serving us, because this is also not creating that connection, that intimacy, that bonding, that deeper heart to heart, soul to soul contact that we want with the other person is also not happening at this other extreme. So this is when, we will be able to come somewhere midway. So, this extreme independence will come here, and this codependence will come here, where we have this middle ground where we will learn how to create and navigate interdependent relationships. So interdependence is like, I love you, I don't need you, I have the choice to do it solo, but I choose to be with you. I want to be with you because doing it together is so much more fun. So in that state, the power will be shared equally among both the masculine and the feminine in the connection. Now, this can also include homosexual relationships. Even in those relationships, there is always a masculine and a feminine aspect. And we all come with a masculine and a feminine aspect within ourselves. So this is when we are balancing the masculine and the feminine within ourselves inside, so it can manifest in our outside reality, a balanced, whole, complete relationship where people come together because they choose to come together to share this beautiful love and bonding and connection, not because they need each other, not because they can't stay without each other, but because they want to experience that intimacy and love with one person, and for any situation, in any circumstance, if that doesn't work, they can consciously, choose to separate without all the drama and the heartbreak and, all the baggage that comes with breaking up, separation, or divorce. You know, you are actually doing the other person a service and yourself a service when you see a dysfunctional relationship and choose to walk away from it. So, you know, even our point of attraction is that when we are attracted to someone, usually that person is bringing out our unhealed emotions, our unresolved traumas, our issues that we need to work on. Because we are not aware, life is like a mirror, and relationships are our biggest mirrors. It is only through the eyes of the other person, through the behavior of the other person, we can become aware of where we are lacking. Now, when I say lacking, I don't mean that we literally lack something within us. I believe that we are all whole and complete and healed, and we come here for a holistic physical experience. However, that's not how we are brought up. We grow up thinking that, you know, this is not good in me. You know, I shouldn't be so weak. I shouldn't be vulnerable. I shouldn't do this, because by doing that, we don't feel accepted. Maybe our parents tell us, you know, you have to be stronger, you have to do this, you have to do that. And we try to follow those belief systems, those lifestyles that society tell us to do, that our parents tell us to do, that our teachers tell us to do. And in the process, we lose our unique soul signature. We lose our unique purpose of life. And that's when we feel this lack. So that lack is also a belief system, you know. So for example, if you think, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy of love, or I'm not good enough, you know, it's not true. You are good, you are lovable, but you have this belief system that I'm not good enough, that I'm not lovable. And you will always show up in ways, in relationships, where the other person will see this in you and reflect back this unhealed aspect within you, where you are having this limiting belief or wrong belief that you are not good enough, you are not lovable. And this is when, you know, through the pain of that connection, of that separation, you learn to focus within yourself and eliminate these dysfunctional beliefs that you have picked up while growing, that, you know, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, or, you know, I need to hide, I need to stay small, because if they see the real me, the real who I am, then, you know, they will not love me anymore. So that is what is coming up nowadays in these broken connections and broken relationships nowadays, where humanity as a collective is becoming aware of itself. We are like a species that is waking up to ourselves, you know, and we are eliminating these shadow aspects, these unconscious aspects within ourselves that we are not even aware of, you know. And how can we become aware of what is unhealed inside us? It is only through that mirror of that connection, through that mirror of relationships, especially if you have an intense attraction towards someone and that someone never reciprocates your love. This is when, you know, you would know the more intense that connection, the more wounded you are, the more wounded your inner child is. So one way to deal with this is to get in touch with that little child inside you that is so scared, you know, and give that child your unconditional presence, you know. Stay with yourself, go back in your mind to that childhood where, you know, you felt maybe unloved by your parents, not seen for who you are, or not loved for who you are, and you had to do certain things to please them so you can be loved. So those things, you know, you can sit with that little child inside you and give that child your unconditional presence and love, instead of distracting yourself, you know, in your uncomfortable, difficult moments. With, you know, when people have these conflicting emotions and they don't know how to deal with it, they take to addictions, they take to smoking, to alcohol, to drugs, you know, in extreme situations, or watching TV 24 hours. These are distractions to escape ourselves. Those emotions become so uncomfortable, and we are so scared to look within. But once, you know, we can look within and we can start to eliminate these unconscious blocks that we have within ourselves, the external reality will become purer and purer, and your connections will become more and more based on truth and nothing to hide, you know. Can you imagine being in a relationship where you have nothing to hide, where you are seen for exactly who you are, loved, accepted, and approved for who you are? That is bliss, you know. But to manifest that externally, we have to be willing to give that love, acceptance, approval to that scared inner child within us internally, so we are not fragmented, we are not operating from, you know, conflicting emotions and conflicting beliefs. So the entirety of us, all aspects within ourselves are integrated. That is when we can feel true wholeness within ourselves, and we can manifest that in our external reality. And this is now, right now, the vibration, the collective vibration of humanity is more leaning towards separation than connection. And this was designed like this because before, the kind of connections that we had were so toxic, so painful, that, you know, one party always in that codependent relationship was suffering. And that internal suffering gives birth to this other reality, to this other consciousness where, you know, I'm like, I'm not willing to suffer at the hands of someone else, and I will see how I can do it myself, you know. So this is what is happening in the collective consciousness of humanity. And this is why we have so much separation and disconnection from relationships today, because people don't want the pain, the suffering from someone else. Then they are, you know, they'd rather be single and alone than experience that pain externally. But we still have to deal with those painful vibrations within ourselves. Also, I think technology is contributing a lot to this separation with, you know, all these virtual realities where people are getting addicted to porn sites and video games and, you know, all these virtual gaming, and you are not really experiencing real connection, intimacy, and bonding with another human being. It's all on the screen. Even parents, they don't have time to spend with their children, then they buy their kids these video games, and then they are focused in their work or career or whatever, and that child is not experiencing true intimacy. And then that child grows up with a lot of these problems, you know, and that child doesn't know how to show up, even in an adult life, how to show up in a loving way, being present in the connection when they are seeking to get a partner for themselves. So that is, you know, an overview of why we have so many disconnected relationships and so much separation and loneliness in today's world. This loneliness is a direct result of the pain of relationships that our ancestors, our grandmothers went through in the past. Even in a chemical reaction, you have to balance an equation for the elements, not to topple. Like the power needs to be balanced, right? So from codependence, we have gone to independence. Soon we will realize that this is not working, this never worked. So, we have to find this middle ground where we will consciously create these connections, where being in a relationship would mean that you take the other person as a part of yourself. You are not just focused on yourself, because this is what was happening in the codependent relationships also, where one person is just thinking of himself or herself, just meet my needs, meet my needs, meet my needs, that transactional kind of relationship. And then on the other hand, now these independent, strong, independent, isolated people, they are now like, okay, I can meet my own needs, I don't need you. But in a relationship, we need both parties to expand their definition of the self, where the self is now not just me, but me and you. So when I look at you as a part of me, as who I am, then I will not spite you, the hand will not spite the leg, right? Because it is all part of the same body. So that feeling is missing nowadays in connections. People are just getting into relationships to see what can I get from the other person. Or, nowadays the spiritual teachings are saying, what can I give to the other person? So if you are giving too much and not getting enough, then the relationship is not balanced. And at the end of it, you will feel resentment. And if you are getting too much and not giving, then, you are operating from a narcissistic mindset where you feel that you only deserve to get and you don't give, because you don't take that other person as a part of yourself. So in that interdependent connection, which is a future possibility where humanity, we are heading, we can only have that loving, conscious, balanced connection when both individuals in the relationship take the other person as a part of themselves, and the family as a part of themselves, and then the whole society as a part of themselves, the whole community, and then the whole world as a part of themselves. So this is empathy, and nowadays a lot of people are being born extremely sensitive and empaths. Only empathy can save this world, because, otherwise when you have this rat race going on in our world, people are in survival mode all the time, then we are not evolving collectively in our consciousness. So we have to get there, to be able to experience higher energies like telepathy, like mind-to-mind connection, where you won't even need a cell phone, a mobile phone to connect with each other. You can send your thoughts to the other person, or you can communicate through dreams, through intuition, a remote connection and things like that, transference of your feelings and emotions, where I don't have to even tell you how I am feeling. Just by being present in my energy field, you will know exactly how I am feeling, and you can respond to that instead of just reacting to it. So these higher vibrations of human communication can be achieved when we have worked on our individual vibrations, and we can balance ourselves from within, and then we can create that balanced relationship with someone outside of ourselves.